So, hi, hello, and welcome. I'm Oliver, and there is a common misconception regarding the natural sciences that I would like to talk about in this video. And this misconception is that many people, the general public, sometimes expects scientists to provide definitive answers. And this is often not the case because science always changes in light of new evidence. So you see, there is a little mismatch here between expectations of the public and also what science actually is and what scientists are able and also willing to provide. So, what am I even talking about here? Well, until the 1920s, the view of this natural sciences was like this, that you have a scientific theory, you do an experiment, and you kind of verify that theory, and then it's an established theory, right? Yeah, and basically this is an outdated view because then later on another important philosopher, Sir Karl Popper, came along and he said the following: scientific theories can never be proven 100% correct, they can only be falsified. And with falsified he means proven wrong, because one single experiment, if done properly, obviously we're not talking about experimental mistakes now, but one single experiment can essentially destroy a whole theory. And basically then, yeah, we have a little crisis and we have to find a new theory that also includes this new evidence. Yeah, so scientific progress includes the finding of new scientific theories and explanations and dumping, in other words, old theories. And it's kind of a cycle, right? And scientific progress, and this is something that scientists consider very exciting because then they've made a new discovery and they will end up in the textbook and maybe being taught in schools and universities, and they become famous, maybe not rich, but definitely famous. Yeah. Because they have essentially overturned an old view and came up with a new view. And this is maybe also one of the motivating things that drives a scientist to discover something new. Scientific progress, right? However, the general public does not always view that very favorably. To a certain extent, I can understand it a little bit because there is a certain mismatch in expectations. I want to give you an example here. I mean, several years ago during the pandemic, scientists who were advising the government or governments worldwide, rather, this was, of course, something that happened worldwide. They kept on adapting the recommendations, what the public should do, and then politics basically implemented those recommendations. And the scientists, of course, changed their views about certain things over time. Yeah, they gave different recommendations. Sometimes they were maybe very strict concerning certain behavioral rules at the beginning, which were then made a little bit more lenient in light of new evidence, and so on. Right, and this is something that, for in a scientist's mind, is something totally normal and understandable, because that's what science is. We get new evidence, we learn more, we adapt our actions. But the general public, of course, does not view that always very favorable because they want to have certainty. There's public fear, understandably, of course, and you want to rely now on the scientists, and they basically keep on changing their minds. Right? And sometimes even experts, different scientists disagree, and there is a little bit of a debate even sometimes happening, yeah, as it appears. And for an insider, however, those deep debates are sometimes on a very superficial level. There is a common agreement on the fundamentals in any case, but sometimes the public does not see that. And this can cause, indeed, the impression that scientists don't know what they're talking about. And this can also lead to certain mistrust, maybe, in the natural sciences, and maybe also contributes a little bit to the gap between the public expectations and that what science actually is and is willing to provide. And as a matter of fact, this uncertainty of the general public might also result in a certain rejection of the sciences as such. Yeah, the scientists, they don't even know what they're talking about. They always keep on changing their minds. All right, they don't know. I have an expectation that they know what they're doing because they're the experts, they're the authority, and then they keep on changing their mind. And the scientists actually have a different mindset, and say, wow, cool, we discovered something new, there's new evidence, now we can adapt our views, our theories in light of the new evidence. Yeah, so there is also, maybe, I don't know if you could say, a cultural mismatch in the way that, cultural is maybe the wrong word here, a different worldviews maybe of what actually science actually is and should be. Now, what I've also seen in the past is that some people take this to an extreme, and they basically say, well, even the scientists admit that their theories change, right? So basically, they admit themselves that they don't know what they're talking about, and therefore I reject science right from the beginning. Right? I reject those views because they're going to be wrong anyway, right? No, this is not how it works either. That's, I think, also a little bit of a very, almost, I would say, abusive way of seeing the sciences. Yeah, that's not the way that it works. It's like this, that scientists should only change their views or change their views only if essentially there's new evidence that appears. And you don't just reject a theory out of hand, right? So the decisions are always or should always be based on evidence, and because of that, in light of new evidence, basically scientists should not have a problem in also adapting and taking on new theories. I say should not, because sometimes I admit a lot of people also have fallen in love very much with their own theory that they have known for their whole life, and sometimes changing one's views can be difficult. Yeah, but generally, this is something that still characterizes scientific progress. Is maybe also one of the reasons why scientific progress can sometimes be very slow, because sometimes it takes many years, maybe even generations, for new scientific consensus to establish. I mean, I don't want to get too philosophical about this, but the whole concept of paradigm change is a huge topic on its own. Yeah, so in summary, yeah, that's the way that science actually is. The big misconception is that scientists think, or not think, but view science as an always evolving and changing discipline, where essentially we try to avoid and falling into a so-called into dogmas, which are basically fixed and unchanging. But actually, scientific theory should be flexible and adaptable. But that is something that is sometimes also a little bit difficult to communicate. All from my side. Okay, I would like to hear your views on this issue. There is, of course, a comment section below. I wish you all the best. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.